I just wanted to pop on the beginning here to let you know that the next wave of travel palettes is available right now. The link to them will be in the top of the description box if you want to check out what's available before watching the rest of this video. Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. I'm really excited for this studio vlog because this week I get to work on one of my favorite things to make, more travel palettes. This is a really unplanned palette run. I just realized the other day that I have almost no mystery box palettes left, and I try and keep the mystery box palettes and the DIY kits in stock at all times if I can. So need to do a little restock there, and I just figured that I would make some other ones on the side because it tends to be easier if I'm doing a slightly larger quantity because I have a reason to mix up more paint. It's easier to mix up larger quantities of resin and all of that kind of stuff. I know there's a decent amount of new people to my channel that are probably wondering what on earth I'm talking about, so quick rundown of what the travel palettes are. I essentially accidentally developed these travel palettes. I made one for myself. It is a self-contained paint palette in a small metal tin that has 3D printed parts inside. I made one for myself to take away on vacation, and half of the comment section in that video was wondering if I would make more. And I did, and they have been popular beyond my wildest dreams. Thank you guys once again for all of your love towards these. It's just super cool that you guys like them so much because they are super fun for me to create. I customize a portion of them with pour painted lids, and then there's of course the DIY kits if you want to make your own, and then the mystery box palettes are exactly what they sound like. They are randomly selected pour painted tin lids, so if you can't decide on a color scheme that you want or just want a surprise in the mail, that's what the mystery box palettes are great for. And I know they're called travel palettes because that was what originally I designed mine for, but I know a lot of you have just said you've been using yours as sort of condensed mini palettes for your everyday use. And I have actually been meaning to make myself another one. The current way that I make the travel palettes, I don't actually have one of. I only have my original gouache palette, which has used a few different techniques that I have perfected over all of the time doing these. So it has always been on my list to make myself my own. I'm not sure if that's going to happen this time, but we will see. The first thing that I'm going to tackle, other than it's just completely taking up the entirety of my desk, is solving my White Nights watercolor issue, we'll call it. If you've been watching my videos for a while and have seen my custom watercolor palette video, which is over here, you will know that I basically stole the palette from my White Nights watercolors because it has 4 amazing layers or levels to hold paint, so it can hold an absolute crazy amount compared to like the Winsor & Newton palette, even though it's literally pretty much the same size. It is like my favorite just plastic palette that anything has ever come in. Even the mixing tray I stole a long time ago, so this is finally, it got back together again. And since then my White Nights watercolors have just been chilling in this metal tin, like literally just loose. It's extremely impractical. Like this doesn't even have a level bottom because the normal piece that is in here is holding those watercolors. So it's just been catastrophic, and I finally decided to really look into what I could do to make using them more practical, because I do really like these paints, and I also like that they are full pans, so it's really easy to get a big brush into them. So I grabbed this tin, which I couldn't remember if I actually tried this out. It doesn't fit the full pans well, so you have this extra space anyway, and other than that, it just literally will not fit all of the paints. So what I decided that I'm going to try and do is I've laid out, clearly you can see here, some paints, and I'm just gonna design quickly like a box to 3D print that will fit these perfectly. So I decided the first part of the palette. So I basically made a box. This is the bottom part that's going to fit all of the paints in absolutely perfectly. There's only a couple of millimeters extra space for them, just for a little wiggle room, because obviously it would have been a complete catastrophe if they didn't fit in if I made it too tight. So this is the bottom. I also designed a lid just so that these weren't flying all over the place. But yeah, it's a really simple design, like really nothing fancy. It didn't actually take that long, but it's really nice and strong. So I guess we'll just start getting all of the paints in here. And there we have it, a pretty perfect fit. I obviously could have been a little more precise with my width here. I just put a really thin piece of foam just so that these really don't move around. I could obviously like glue them or something to the bottom, but I do want these to be able to come out if I ever want to like steal one for a particular reason or another. But yeah, that is the bottom part of the palette all finished, and I just need to wait for the actual lid to finish printing. The finished palette and swatch sheet. Now I did actually decide to stick these pans down using my apparent new favorite tool, this poster putty. I figured that this stuff, I used like a super tiny amount on each pan, and it is advertised as removable poster putty, but I figured just for the small amount that I ended up using, if I ever needed to like grab one of these pans out of it, it's probably not going to be a big deal. Just, you know, with some tweezers or something, just pop them out. But it was just to make sure that they really didn't move around or there was no catastrophes of pans flying all over the place. The lid also finished printing, which fits perfectly, which is awesome. I think I might actually try pour painting this just, you know, when I'm doing the rest of the palettes, just for something fun to try out and see what it looks like. Right now, this is just sliding on and off without any sort of closure or anything holding it in, so that might change. I might think of something that I want to try out, because obviously this could be something, I don't know if anyone would be interested in one of these at some point, maybe these more customized paint tin package box things. The other thing I was considering was using the lid itself, the inside, as a mix area. For some reason this printed pretty rough, so if I did want to use this particular one for a mix area, I'm probably going to have to resin the entire inside, which isn't a big deal. Also cut down this so it fits in perfectly here as well. But yeah, that is the finished result for this little custom palette side project. went ahead and spray painted some of the tin lids white. I always make a portion of them white just so that any lighter color schemes have a white base, so that if there happens to be any areas showing through, it's not as noticeable. But now that they're all dried, I guess I will just go ahead and start setting up to get painting all of these. And here are all of the finished painted palettes. I ended up grabbing a whole lot more than I originally had. I still had a ton of paint left over, so I think I ended up grabbing like 10 more, so almost doubled the wave that I was planning, but it is always a lot easier to do things in larger groups once you have everything mixed up, so that's not a bad thing. But now that these are all dried, I'm ready to start setting up to resin them. Resin Palettes. Now, miraculously, I managed to mix up the perfect amount of resin to cover all of these. Unfortunately, that means that I didn't have enough resin to finish my own palette lid, but I wanted to do the top as well as the inside anyway, so that's just going to be a project for another video. Of all of the palette waves, I think this one might have the most where the camera is really not doing them justice. I mixed in a lot of different micro glitter and iridescence, so I think I'm going to insert some footage of me just using my phone flashlight on them and try to capture and emulate exactly what these look like in person. I mean, a lot of the time they do end up looking just so much more interesting in person than I can really capture on a camera, but these ones just really have so much interesting texture in them that for the most part it seems like the camera really isn't picking up too much. Yeah, the resin has now cured on all of these lids, so now it's time to actually start putting the palettes back together. And that's going to be where I end this week's studio vlog. I'm sure I probably already mentioned it in this video, but these palettes are available now, and if you are interested in one, the link to them will be in the top of the description box. But that is everything. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.